Let's start. Number 10. The Triads. The Triads didn't start as a crime syndicate. They were originally anti-Qing secret societies in the 1600s, fighting for political freedom. Imagine a group of rebellious teenagers with swords and scrolls, but instead of TikTok, they had oaths, rituals, and loyalty tattoos. But then, like all groups with power and ambition, things got complicated. Protection rackets, smuggling, gambling, and eventually international business became their bread and butter. By the 20th century, they spread across Hong Kong, Macau, Southeast Asia, and even the Western world, and if you think they only do street-level crime, think again. They've been involved in cybercrime, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and even influencing legitimate businesses, from movie financing to real estate. Basically, if it's illegal somewhere, a triad probably tried it first. And of course, they have rituals, blood oaths, secret codes, hand signs, and the stuff you'd see in a kung fu movie and think, that's dramatic, but it's a real fun fact. The name Triad comes from a triangle symbolizing heaven, earth, and man, or in modern terms, money, power, and avoiding the cops. Number 9. The Yakuza. The Yakuza started as gamblers, peddlers, and street toughs in the 1600s, but quickly turned into one of the most organized criminal networks in the world. They operate with hierarchy, roles, and strict codes, like corporate employees if your office job involved extortion and assault. They even helped rebuild Kobe after the 1995 earthquake. So technically, they do community service, funded by crime. Imagine showing up to disaster relief with a katana in one hand and a donation check in the other. That's Yakuza style. And the tattoos. Oh, the tattoos. Full body ink illustrating dragons, demons, and skeletons. Basically LinkedIn profiles if LinkedIn screamed danger instead of networking. Then there's Yubit Sum, the finger-cutting ritual for failure. It's their version of apologizing with style. Oops, my bad. Here's part of my hand. Over the centuries, the Yakuza have adapted to modern crime, cybercrime, loan sharking, gambling, and more. And despite legal crackdowns, they are still one of the oldest continuous criminal organizations on the planet. Number 8. The Sicilian Mafia. The Mafia started in the 19th century Sicily, originally to protect farmers from corrupt landowners. But protection soon turned into extortion. Nice vineyard you got there, shame if something happened to it. By the time they reached America in the early 1900s, they had expanded into bootlegging, gambling, and eventually full-scale organized crime empires. Think Al Capone, but with better pasta. Even today, the Sicilian Mafia influences smuggling, construction, olive oil production, and other legitimate businesses. Yes, olive oil. If your spaghetti tastes suspiciously like crime, thank them. The Mafia's family structure, bosses, underbosses, soldiers, is like a corporate org chart, but with more guns and fewer HR complaints. Their influence in Sicily was so deep that some towns practically functioned as mafia-run municipalities. Refusing a request wasn't optional, unless you wanted your vineyard mysteriously fertilized overnight. Number 7. The Camorra. The Camorra started in the 17th century Naples, basically the chaotic cousin of the Mafia. Unlike the Mafia, they didn't have a strict hierarchy. Each gang operated like its own tiny startup, except instead of making apps, they extorted shops, smuggled goods, and fought endlessly. Territory wars, daily illegal businesses, everything from counterfeit goods to drugs and even toxic waste dumping, and they were terrible at teamwork. Sometimes a gang would extort another gang's territory just for fun. Fast forward to today, and the Camorra is still a major criminal presence. They make billions, and their operations are so complex you'd need a PhD to map it all out. They've also infiltrated legal businesses like construction, and occasionally they bribe politicians for fast permits. The Camorra is chaotic, messy, and terrifyingly adaptive. Leaders rise and fall constantly, turf wars rage on, and every time someone thinks they've contained them, another Camorra faction appears like a stick-figure hydra. Number 6. The Ndrangheta. Meet the Ndrangheta, Calabria's pride, Italy's most secretive, and possibly the richest criminal organization in the world. They got their start in the 1700s, making them centuries-old veterans of organized crime. Unlike other Italian gangs that operate in flashy cities, the Ndrangheta began in remote villages. Think isolated hills, tight-knit families, and a population that basically said, "We'll take care of our own, by any means necessary." They started small, protection rackets, smuggling, and enforcing local justice. But over the centuries, they evolved into an international empire. Today, they control massive portions of Europe's cocaine trade, money laundering, construction, and even renewable energy projects. Yes, they're modern, diversified, and terrifyingly organized. The Ndrangheta is all about family and loyalty. Members are mostly blood relatives, which makes infiltration almost impossible. Police and rivals might as well be waving hello at a stick-figure fortress. Nothing gets in unless you're born into it. And they're patient. Unlike flashy gangs, the Ndrangheta doesn't rush for headlines. They operate quietly, building wealth and influence over decades. While other gangs fight turf wars, the Ndrangheta expands its empire like a slow-burning volcano, silently terrifying and steadily unstoppable. Even governments have struggled. Italian authorities and international agencies have tried to crack them down for decades, but thanks to secrecy, family ties, and ruthless enforcement, they continue to thrive. They're basically the gang you can't see coming or leave. So while the world may hear more about Yakuza or Triads, don't forget about the Ndrangheta. Centuries old, family-driven, global, and still very much running their business in the shadows. Number 5. Irish Mob. Say hello to the Irish Mob, the long-running successors of the infamous street gangs like the 40 Thieves. They've been active in the U.S. since the early 1800s and continue to operate today in cities like Boston, New York, and Chicago. They started as small-time thieves, extortionists, and pickpockets, immigrants trying to survive in tough neighborhoods. But over the decades, they grew into sophisticated criminal networks, running gambling rings, loan sharking, drug trafficking, and more. Unlike some flashier gangs, the Irish Mob is known for discipline, strategy, and staying under the radar. They mix street smarts with political influence, historically leveraging local politicians and police connections to maintain power. Their influence isn't just criminal. It shaped neighborhoods, politics, and even entertainment. Movies, TV shows, and folklore often glamorize or dramatize their exploits, but behind the scenes, they were ruthless, territorial, and deadly. The Irish Mob may have evolved over the years, but they've retained family ties, loyalty, and organizational cunning, making them a true survivor among centuries-old gangs. If you think street gangs don't last generations, meet these guys, still active, still feared, and still operating under the radar. Number 4, Russian Mafia. Meet the Russian Mafia, also known as the Bratva. They trace their roots back to criminal organizations in late 18th and 19th century Russia, starting with thieves, brigands, and organized crime groups in the Tsarist era. And they're still very much active today, globally. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the Bratva exploded onto the international scene. They dominate smuggling, arms trafficking, cybercrime, money laundering, and more. With influence stretching across Europe, the U.S., and Asia, the Bratva is structured like a military organization with ranks, codes of conduct, and strict loyalty. Betrayal is punished swiftly and dramatically. They also operate through networks of legal businesses, from nightclubs to shipping companies, making it nearly impossible to track their full operations. They're notorious for their intimidation tactics, ruthless efficiency, and adaptability. While some gangs rise and fall, The Russian Mafia constantly reinvents itself, keeping one step ahead of law enforcement. In short, centuries old, extremely organized, globally connected, and still very dangerous. Think of them as the ultimate survivalists of organized crime. If organized crime were a stick figure empire, the Bratva would be the overlords. Number 3. The Korean Mafia meet the Korean Mafia, or Kakangpai, Korea's organized crime network that's been quietly running things since the aftermath of Japanese occupation in the 1940s and 50s. They started as street gangs in the chaos of post-war Korea, but over the decades they've evolved into fully organized crime syndicates. Think less movie thugs and more corporate criminals with baseball bats. They run gambling dens, loan shark operations, and protection rackets. Some factions have their hands in politics and legitimate businesses, meaning yes, you could be paying protection fees without even realizing it. Unlike the flashy Yakuza or Triads, the Kangpai prefer to operate in the shadows, quietly influencing neighborhoods, clubs, and underground businesses. They've survived decades of crackdowns, regime changes, and rival gangs, proving that stealth and patience can sometimes be more powerful than guns and glory. Despite not being as globally famous, the Korean Mafia is still active today, maintaining strong networks in Korea and even extending influence overseas. They're the perfect example of an old gang adapting to modern crime while staying under the radar. Number 2. The Hells Angels. The Hells Angels and their biker gang brethren. Founded in California in 1948, these guys took the idea of freedom on wheels and paired it with organized crime. They're infamous for motorcycles, leather jackets, and, violent brawls, drug trafficking, and extortion. Basically, they turned the biker lifestyle into a global criminal brand. From the USA to Europe, Australia, and Japan, Hells Angels chapters operate semi-independently, but they share a strict code of loyalty and hierarchy. Cross one chapter, and you're in serious trouble. Just ask any stick figure who tries to steal a Harley. They've survived decades of police crackdowns, legal battles, and internal rivalries. How? By branding themselves. The logo, the patches, the rituals, they make crime feel like a lifestyle brand. They even inspired movies, TV, and video games, though the stick figure version is obviously much funnier. Despite their 70-plus years of existence, Hells Angels are still active globally, running clubs, bars, and underground businesses, proving that motorcycles, leather, and loyalty are a surprisingly enduring formula for criminal longevity. Number 1, the Mexican cartels. And finally, the Mexican cartels, the modern masters of drug trafficking and organized crime. Many of today's cartels trace their roots back to the 1940s to 1950s, when small smuggling operations along the U.S.-Mexico border began to expand over the decades. These cartels evolved into global criminal enterprises. They control vast portions of the cocaine, meth, and heroin trade, while also operating kidnapping rings, extortion networks, and money laundering operations. Think of them as a multi-billion-dollar corporate empire, but with more guns, masks, and stick figure explosions. They're also extremely adaptive government crackdowns, rival cartels, or internal power struggles. No problem. They reorganize, form alliances, and keep the supply chain flowing. It's organized chaos on a continental scale. Today, Mexican cartels are not just local gangs, they're international criminal networks. Their influence stretches from South America to North America, and even into Europe and Asia. If you're talking old gangs still running today with global impact, this is the heavyweight champion. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe or the Triads might start financing this channel next.